स्थिति में आज स्वदेशी की भावना और तीव्र हुई है। जिस प्रकार से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 11 वर्षों में पहला जन धन का कार्यक्रम जो 2014 में शुरू किया था, वहां से शुरू करते करते चाहे स्वच्छ भारत हो, डिजिटल इंडिया मिशन हो, स्टार्टअप स्टैंड अप इंडिया हो, मुद्रा योजना हो, स्वदेशी स्वनिधि योजना हो, भारत में हर घर तक शौचालय पहुंचे, हर घर तक पानी पहुंचे, बिजली पहुंचे, ये जो एक पूरे देश में समुचित विकास, समावेशी विकास प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में 11 वर्षों में देखने को मिला है, ये भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था की एक रीढ़ की हड्डी बनकर आगे भारत को नई ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंचाएगा। इस विश्वास के साथ हम सब मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में काम कर रहे हैं और मुझे विश्वास है कि आप सबके माध्यम से ये संदेश देश में पहुंचेगा कि आज भारत एक नए आत्मविश्वास के साथ, स्वदेशी भावना के साथ, नए उत्साह के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है और आपके माध्यम से देशवासियों का भी उत्साहवर्धन होगा। ये विश्वास के साथ हम आप सबको पुनः एक बार दीपावली की और सभी त्योहारों की बहुत बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं 140 करोड़ देशवासियों तक आपके माध्यम से पहुंचाना चाहते हैं। धन्यवाद।
आप सबको धनतेरस की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। मैं ब्रीफ 5 पॉइंट्स रखूंगा आपके सामने। सबसे पहला, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स की सेल्स। इस नवरात्रि में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स की रिकॉर्ड सेल्स हुई है। जितनी भी रिटेल चेन्स हैं उन सबसे जो डेटा आया है उस डेटा के हिसाब से करीब पिछले नवरात्रि के कंपैरिजन में 20 से 25% अधिक सेल्स हुई है। 20 से 25% अधिक सेल्स हुई है। बहुत सारी ऐसी कैटेगरीज है, जैसे 85 इंच टीवी है, उसका तो कंप्लीट स्टॉक आउट हो गया, कंप्लीट स्टॉक सेल हो गया। बहुत सारे परिवारों ने अपने पुराने टीवी को अपग्रेड किया नए टेलीविजन्स में। बहुत सारे परिवारों ने और बहुत सारे यंग नौजवानों ने अपने पुराने स्मार्टफोन को अपग्रेड किया नए स्मार्टफोन से। तो चाहे टेलीविजन्स हो, चाहे वॉशिंग मशीन्स हो, चाहे एयर कंडीशनर्स हो, चाहे मोबाइल फोन्स हो, सेट टॉप बॉक्सेस हो, इन सब की इस धनतेरस इस नवरात्रि में एक रिकॉर्ड सेल्स हुई है। 20 से 25% अधिक सेल्स हुई है। सेकेंड पॉइंट मैं रखूंगा, जीएसटी में जो रिफॉर्म्स हुए उन रिफॉर्म्स के कारण फूड इन्फ्लेशन, जो एक बड़ा मिडिल क्लास परिवारों के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट मैटर रहता था, 4 महीने हो गए लगातार फूड का डिफ्लेशन चल रहा है। फूड प्राइसेस कम हो रहे हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द रिफॉर्म्स इन जीएसटी। करीब -2% कम हो रहे हैं फूड के प्राइसेस। थर्ड पॉइंट रखना चाहूँगा, इस जो डिमांड बढ़ रही है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स के गुड्स की, उसका सीधा इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे। Electronics manufacturing is now growing at a double-digit CAGR. Very rapidly it is expanding, and today electronics manufacturing is giving employment to about 25 lakh persons directly. 25 lakh persons को directly रोजगार इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में मिल रहा है। और इस साल यूएस, जो कि बहुत बड़ा एक कंज्यूमर मार्केट है, यूएस को जो स्मार्टफोन्स जाते थे उसमें इंडिया हैज सरपास्ड आवर नेबर इन सप्लाइंग इन एक्सपोर्टिंग स्मार्टफोन्स टू यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स। ये बहुत बड़ा एक अचीवमेंट है अपने कंट्री के लिए। कंपनीज लाइक सम ऑफ द बिगेस्ट कंपनीज, उनका करीब 20% ऑफ द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इज नाउ हैपनिंग इन इंडिया। तो एक अच्छा सिग्निफिकेंट पॉजिटिव रीइंफोर्समेंट, डिमांड बढ़ती है उससे प्रोडक्शन इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ता है, डिमांड बढ़ती है, फिर एक ही पॉजिटिव रीइंफोर्समेंट है। फोर्थ, जो कि स्लाइटली जीएसटी से डिफरेंट है लेकिन बहुत अच्छी खुशखबरी है, इसलिए आपको देना चाहूँगा। सेकेंड सेमीकंडक्टर प्लांट हैज स्टार्टेड प्रोडक्शन लास्ट वीक। फर्स्ट वॉज सीजी सेमाई एंड सेकेंड इज केन्स विच हैज स्टार्टेड प्रोडक्शन। फिफ्थ लास्ट पॉइंट में रखना चाहूँगा, जब जीएसटी का बहुत बड़ा ये रिफॉर्म माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने और माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने किया था, इस रिफॉर्म के टाइम में कई एस्टिमेट्स आए थे कि कंजम्पशन किस तरह से बढ़ेगा देश में, डिमांड किस तरह से बढ़ेगी। अपनी लास्ट ईयर का जीडीपी का अगर नंबर हम देखें तो 335 लाख करोड़ की जीडीपी है, उसमें से 202 लाख करोड़ हमारा कंजम्पशन है और 98 लाख करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट है। नेचुरल वे में कंजम्पशन हर साल बढ़ता है एज इनकम ग्रोज, एज कंट्री ग्रोज, लेकिन बिकॉज ऑफ द जीएसटी रिफॉर्म्स consumption will be significantly increasing, and quite likely, it's very likely that the consumption will increase more than 10% this year, which means करीब 20 लाख करोड़ रुपए का एक्स्ट्रा कंजम्पशन होने की पूरी संभावना है कंपेयर टू द लास्ट ईयर। इसमें जीएसटी का भी कंट्रीब्यूशन है, नेचुरल ग्रोथ का भी कंट्रीब्यूशन है। इन्वेस्टमेंट जो 98 लाख करोड़ लास्ट ईयर था, दैट ऑल्सो इज लाइकली टू इंक्रीज सिग्निफिकेंटली। डेफिनेटली private investment is coming up in a big way because of the growth in demand. So these are the 5 brief points I had to share with you, friends. Once again, very happy Dhanteras. I'll request Honorable Finance Minister.
There are one or two things which I specifically want the media's attention to be drawn. Since 22nd September, we have been getting in the Finance Ministry, Department of Revenue, getting information from the zonal levels on all items, but we've been closely monitoring 54 such items where we wanted to be sure that the prices are reduced, meaning the tax benefit is reaching the end consumer. 54 items. I'm not going to read each one of them out. And even as we say 54 items, you know, from 12 to 5, the rate reduction has happened. And from 28 to 18, rate reduction has happened on largely most of the goods. But in some cases, one or two went this way or that way. But 54 such daily use items we've been closely monitoring. Not in one has the tax not been, the benefit has not been passed. Not even in one item, the input that we've received from all the zones has the tax benefit not been passed to the consumer. There are, of course, one or two items like high-end cement, the Portland variety, on which there is an expected rate of passing on should happen, but it is less than that rate. It is that Portland variety of cement, which is called the Portland Pozzolana cement. It's called PPC. It is probably that one category which is far lesser than what should have been expected to be passed on. Now, when I say expected, in some few items where the input tax is more than the output, now that we've reduced the output, there will be some adjustment that the product will do before it reaches the consumer. So where it is expected to have 10 percentage points going as a benefit, it might end up having 8.25% being passed on actually, because of the disparity which still continues to be in a very few set of items between the output tax and the input tax. So that expected rate is closer to what it should actually be passed on, but there will be 1 or 2 percentage differences. So except for that Portland variety of cement of 1 or 2 brands, all cement companies have reduced, so are milk and milk related items. So on these 54 particular items on which we have been getting inputs from the zonal areas, from the various zones of a field formation, we are convinced that on every such item, the benefits are being passed on to the consumer. In fact, I have the item-wise, what is the tax reduction, how much has gone to the consumer, by zone, which I have compiled for our benefit's sake, for all items, overall for all the zones. So we are convinced that the rate reduction is actually reaching the common people. And that is why I think a lot of people who belong to the sectors are commenting openly. And there is a compilation. You had Minister Ashwini Vaishnav talking about how some FDIs, how some investors have made remarks which are speaking about what is happening in these sectors. particularly the automobile sector, has been very vocal about transferring the rate cut and about how that has improved their sales. So actually I can go on reciting as to how many items have been dispatched. Just one or two instances. Three-wheeler dispatches grew by 5.5% year-on-year to 84,077 units, which is up from 79,683 units the previous year. Two-wheeler sales increased 21.60 lakh units. Hero Motors apparently saw the highest ever sales, monthly sales. And so is the passenger vehicle dispatch, which is 3.72 lakhs in September alone. Mind you, we are talking about only between September 22nd and 30th of September, although some of them had started giving it earlier onwards, but 3.72 lakh units have been dispatched in September. And overall, therefore, just in those 9 days, there's been a flurry of buying and selling, so every sector has come out. Similarly, tractors, after the cuts to 1.46 lakh units have been dispatched in September 2025. Month on month, it's about 64,332 units. Sales more than doubled in September for tractors. So you can item by item take about how the rate reduction has actually resulted in consumers increasing their purchase. Dealers in consumer durables have reported a doubling of sales in ACs on the very first day, which is 22nd September. So manufacturers indicated that pre-bookings had begun before the actual rollout itself, and inquiries surged. A major TV manufacturer reported 30 to 35% increase in TV sales on day one of GST 2.0, particularly with 43-inch and 55-inch models showing the highest jump. Electronics retail chain Vijay Sales, that company, saw more than 20% sale in their growth in that 1 month, which is effectively only 8 days. LG Electronics India also noted exponential growth in sales during the Navaratri season. So with the fast-moving consumer goods, particularly when food, personal care items, oils, and nutrition items have all gone up. There's just one data, there are few that I can quote from that 55 zones from where we are collecting data. Very interesting. While 5% reduction happened, there are items which have actually benefited by receiving more than what has been given in the tax benefit. From 18, shampoo came down to 5. Actual decrease in shampoos, for instance, in the price based on average price reported by the various CGST zones is 12.36%. I'm taking that one example to show the intended benefit was 18 down to 5, which means about 11.02% if they have given whatever was expected to give. But it has actually touched 12.36%. That's a shampoo example. Similar example I will give you of talcum powders, where it is touched 11.77. Face powders 12.22. There was one other very interesting item which I thought I should share because it has clinical diapers. Clinical diapers were reduced from 12 to 5%. And actually what people have found as decrease in while buying it is 10.38%. We were expecting to have only about 6.25 worked out average, weighted average, but people have received in clinical diapers 10.38%. So is the change in many other items like table, kitchen and other household articles of iron, steel and copper, even household utensils. The expected weighted average, it was brought down from 12 to 5, expected weighted average reduction if passed on to the consumer would have been absolutely justified was 6.25. Now, actually what has been passed on is 10.24%. And that item is what? Table, kitchen, and other household articles of iron, steel, and copper, utensils also. All these, where you could have just passed on 6.25%, they have actually passed on 10.24%. So more than expected reduction in tax has happened, and at the consumer's hand, he is ending up paying what has been expected and some more too. So on those 54 items, another very interesting item, set of items I'd like to draw your attention. Toys like tricycles, scooters, pedals, cars, etc., including parts and accessories thereof, were reduced from 12 to 5. If they had passed on 6.25 as a weighted average itself, they would have done the justice. But 8.93% is what has actually been passed on all these items. Similar is the passing on of solar cookers, where 12 to 5 was the reduction, 6.25 would have been justified, but they have passed on 6.96. Another item which is very substantial, 12 to 5 was the reduction, but if they had given 6.25 would have been justified. They have actually passed on 9.19% of benefit to the consumer. And what is this one particular item? Umbrellas, sun umbrellas, including walking stick umbrellas, garden umbrellas, and similar such umbrellas. So item by item, I'm here to tell you that that which is weighted average of the reduction which should have gone to the consumer is going, and more is also being passed on. So there is a remarkable impact of this set of new GST rate reductions that have happened, and every item that I've monitored which is of relevance for day-to-day life of common citizens, 54, and we still continue to monitor them, the rate has been, the benefit has been passed on to the consumers. Thank you.
थैंक यू मैम। अब हम आप लोगों से प्रश्न लेंगे, लेकिन उसके पहले आपसे एक अनुरोध है कि आप अपना एक प्रश्न पूछे जिससे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा साथियों को मौका मिले। दूसरा, आप अपना नाम और अपने संस्थान का परिचय अवश्य दें। और मैं, जैसा कि प्रोटोकॉल है, फर्स्ट रो से शुरू करूंगा। फर्स्ट रो में कोई प्रश्न नहीं है, सेकेंड रो में 22 नंबर।
मैम दिस साइड ब्रह्म प्रकाश दुबे, जी न्यूज से। मेरा सवाल है मैम, जो आपने 54 आइटम्स की बात की, जो निगरानी भी कर रही हैं, इसमें क्या डेयरी आइटम्स भी हैं? क्योंकि कई डेयरी आइटम्स हैं जिसपे देखा गया है कि रेट, चूंकि मैं खरीदने भी जाता हूं रेगुलरली, तो उसमें रेट कम नहीं हुए हैं। बटर की बात कर लीजिए, ब्रेड की बात कर लीजिए, या जैसे मिल्क तो उसमें नहीं था जीएसटी में, लिहाजा मिल्क की दरें कम नहीं हुई। तो बाकी जो डेयरी आइटम्स हैं उस पर भी क्या आपकी निगरानी है? और दूसरा सवाल अश्विनी वैष्णव जी से है कि जो कहा है इन्होंने स्मार्टफोन का एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ा है यूएस को लेकर, तो क्या 50% टैरिफ लगने के बाद भी हमारा एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ा है स्मार्टफोन का? थैंक यू।
ठीक है, अगला 39।
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम कृष्ण मोहन शर्मा है, भारत एक्सप्रेस से मैं बोल रहा हूं। मैं फार्मास्यूटिकल एंड केमिकल एक ग्रे एरिया पहले था, आज भी है। हर व्यक्ति को दवाई की जरूरत होती है, चाहे वो बच्चे हो, बूढ़े हो, जवान हो, लेकिन दवाई की कीमतों में कहीं पे भी रिडक्शन नहीं हुआ है, बल्कि दवाई की कीमतें जो है वो लगातार बढ़ती जा रही हैं।
Hi, this is Pushpita from the New Indian Express. So their e-commerce sites were under scrutiny because they did not pass on the rates on certain items for TVs and all. And they were also, will there be any actions against those e-commerce platforms? Because they called it a technical glitch for that day, but the prices were high for a few days. So.
11, आप भी पूछें।
मैं तरुण शर्मा हूं जी बिजनेस से। मेरा सवाल वित्त मंत्री और पीयूष गोयल सर से। मैम, जो जीएसटी का जो बेनिफिट है, क्या हम ये माने कि जो एक टैरिफ वॉर की वजह से जो इम्पैक्ट आ रहा था, वो जीएसटी की वजह से कहीं ना कहीं हम उसको कंपनसेट कर पाएंगे? क्योंकि कंजम्पशन जिस हिसाब से हम कह रहे हैं कि 30 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा इस साल होगा। थैंक यू।
234.
I'm Nikunj Ohri from Reuters. Ma'am, you spoke about, and we are seeing car sales and several. I'm Nikunj from Reuters. We are seeing, like you said, we are seeing a lot of car sales happening and also consumer electronics. Do you see this as having an impact, even India's growth being higher than what was government's expectation for this year, which is 6.3 to 6.8%? So with these higher sales and pickup in consumption, is that going to, are we going to see even higher growth rate this year?
See, there was this question on dairy items. Yes, it is. There are a few dairy items which are part of the 54 that we are monitoring. For example, butter, cheese, ghee. I can give these three. Condensed milk, of course, was the one which was taxed earlier. Regular fresh milk was not. So for the condensed milk, the rate has come down. But I'll tell you what the actual, even here it has come down, it is passed on to the consumer. Butter was anywhere between 12 and 18%. It was brought down to 5%. The weighted average with which we expect the decrease to be passed on lies somewhere between 6.25 to 11.02. Actual decrease in the ground is 6.47. So if the rate has come down, it has come down because of rate tax cut, and because of the tax cut, the passing on also has happened. Where they were collecting 12 to 18, they're collecting 6.47. Ideally, it can even be brought down till 6.25. That is something on which we are engaging with them. But they have brought down the rate. It was 12 to 18% depending on the type. But it is today at 6.47. That is for butter. Now ghee. Ghee was at 12, it was brought down to 5%. The weighted average and the expected rate which had to be passed on was 6.25. Actually what is being passed on is about 5.97. We are again engaging with them. Where they were taxing 12%, they are now taxing only 5.97. But it is still slightly short of the 6.25 which they should have charged, but 5.97 in the place of 12 is the reduction which I will certainly put it before you. It might have to be brought down a bit more, on which we will work with them, but the information I'm getting from the zones is that when they were charging 12, they are now charging 5.97. So whether it is butter or ghee. Similar is the item cheese. It was at 12%. They should have, it was brought down to 5. Ideally, weighted average is 6.25. They're still at 7.92. Where they were charging 12, they're charging 7.92. There is a reduction. But to get it closer to the weighted average 6.25, there's some work to be done. So that is on the dairy question. Similar is the question of medicines. I've named an item, clinical diapers, gauzes, bandages are all being monitored. They're also called drugs and medicines are also being monitored. I'll take the example of drugs and medicines, which were all at 12. We brought it down to 5%. Actually today they are being charged at 6.93. The weighted average should have been 6.25. If they brought down to 6.25, it would have been justifiable. They brought it down to 6.93. Again, it is far lower than 12% at which they were being taxed earlier. So that's the ground data that I have received. On drugs and medicines, I've already told you about clinical diapers, gauzes and bandages. So we are monitoring medical equipment, medicines and also equipments which are used by patients. You asked me about the tariff war. Is it a response to the tariff war? I think even on the day of the GST Council, when we came to the press, we very clearly said, this has been in the works for 1.5 years. Whoever thought of any tariff war at that time? And several group of ministers were working in these 1.5 years. And several group of these GOMs met again post the Government of India's package which was sent to the GST Council, which was sent to the group of ministers. So these are discussed at various levels at various times. So nowhere close to the tariff war. This had to happen. This was waiting to happen for quite some time. It has happened now. And there was this one question saying, will it have an impact on growth? Am I right? Bloomberg, was it? Reuters. No, I won't speculate on what I'm expecting it to be. That is the job of the data collecting and also the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. But the environment after the launch of GST, next gen GST, you find in the markets, you find in the shops, you find the consumption. And consumption is one of the key engines for growth. So I'm sure you will be able to better calculate than I would do.
4.
On the other, no, wait a minute.
Sorry,
there are questions for the other ministers.
One question was about smartphone exports. Yes, smartphone exports are increasing despite the geopolitical turbulence, and it will continue to grow.
E-commerce.
मित्रों, ई-कॉमर्स के बारे में बताया गया कि शायद कुछ दिनों के लिए कुछ आइटम्स पे आपने कहा कि प्राइस घटे नहीं थे. वैसे साधारणतः जो हम मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं, हमारा तो अनुभव ये रहा है कि नवरात्रि के कारण और त्योहारों के वातावरण में लगभग सभी ई-कॉमर्स कंपनीज ने जीएसटी भी पास ऑन किया, उसके ऊपर कैश बोनसेस और डिस्काउंट्स भी साथ में दिए. लेकिन अगर कोई विशेष आपको जानकारी है, कोई साइट ने, कोई पर्टिकुलर ई-कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म ने पूरी बेनिफिट नहीं पास ऑन की हो कोई आइटम पे, तो अवश्य देना. उसके ऊपर कंज्यूमर विभाग कार्रवाई भी कर सकता है, क्योंकि ये लगभग सभी ने, पूरे उद्योग जगत, पूरे व्यापार जगत ने हमको आश्वस्त किया था कि हम पूरा लाभ जीएसटी का पास ऑन करेंगे. और माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के आंकड़ों से तो दिखता है कि उन्होंने जीएसटी बेनिफिट प्लस पास ऑन किया है. तो स्वाभाविक है कि इसका लाभ जनता तक पहुंचा है, जनता में उत्साह है. कभी कभार एक आध कोई आइटम में, क्योंकि ई कॉमर्स तो प्लेटफॉर्म होता है, वो स्वयं नहीं बेचता है कुछ, कोई जो सेलर है और उसमें लाखों सेलर्स होते हैं, एक आध कुछ केसेस हो तो जरूर हमें संज्ञान में लाना. ये यूएस टैरिफ्स का जो आपने किसी ने पूछा था, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने ठीक कहा है, तो 1.5 साल से चल रहा था, तब तक तो इलेक्शन भी नहीं हुआ था यूएस में. लेकिन आपको स्पष्ट बता दूं, ये प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का संवेदनशील सोच थी. उन्होंने पहले तो जीएसटी लागू ही नहीं हो पा रहा था, 14% सीएजीआर कमिट किया स्टेट्स को और उसको निभाया. यानी 5 वर्षों में जो उनका पुराना सेल्स टैक्स, वैट और सर्विस टैक्स कलेक्शन था, वो सबको डबल का आश्वासन दिया 5 वर्षों में, और उसको पूरा कॉम्पेंसेट किया अगर किसका डबल नहीं हुआ. और जब इतनी कलेक्शन बढ़ गई, फॉर्मलाइजेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी हुई, नौकरियां के साधन बढ़े, वो सबको मद्देनजर रखते हुए, जैसा टैक्स में भी वित्त मंत्री जी ने फरवरी में किया, उसी संवेदनशील उनकी सोच के कारण उन्होंने जीएसटी के बदलाव का सिलसिला 1.5 साल पहले से चुनाव के तुरंत बाद ही शुरू कर दिया.
थैंक यू सर. 4.
Ma'am, I'm Pragya from Times Now. My question to you is, the success of GST also is seen in the consumption figures. But this is also a festive season, and there's a tendency in people to buy more, to buy new products. Will we see the same trend post festivities, post Diwali and everything else? And what are you going to do to ensure that at least the consistency will be there, so that there is an increase in the consumption and the GST figures?
Two. छूट गई थी.
Almost similar question. Post-COVID, we saw there was a lot of revenge buying, revenge purchase by consumers because of the pent-up demand for a very prolonged period. With these GST cuts, how do we see this demand story, consumption story playing out for what kind of a period? What kind of a support would it provide to the growth overall?
13.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This is a related question. What is the government's estimate of, the total consumption boost expected from this exercise? Thank you.
76.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Manoj Kumar from Reuters News Agency. Ma'am, you have given a huge bonanza to the consumers with the GST relief, but there is a... Hello. Thank you. So, Manoj Kumar from Reuters News Agency. Sir, ma'am, you have given a big bonanza to the consumers, definitely, so they are feeling a relief in the festival season. But there is a segment on the production side, particularly small manufacturers like textiles, leathers, so which have been hit hard by this US 50% tariffs, as well as this inverter duty structures, which are like 7 to 10%, so compared to Vietnam enjoying like 0%. So will there be also some relief to them also in view of this circumstance? Thank you.
17.
हमारा भी सवाल
हाँ आएंगे उधर आप.
मैं मनोहर सिंह हूँ यूनिवार्ता से. मेरा भी सवाल इसी तरह का है. कंजम्पशन की जो चूंकि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने लाल किले से अगस्त में ही घोषणा कर दी थी, तो लोगों ने डिमांड रोक रखी थी इस उम्मीद में कि हम जो है जब दिवाली से पहले या दिवाली के समय लागू होगा उस समय खरीदेंगे. तो एक तरह से एक्युमुलेटेड डिमांड का भी इस समय जो है और फेस्टिव डिमांड भी है, प्लस जो हमारा ऑटोमोबाइल है या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में जो हमारे अमेरिका का सबसे बड़ा बाजार था उस पर भी प्रभाव पड़ा है. तो जो इस तरह से रिडक्शन है, जो प्राइस रिडक्शन है और डिमांड है, एक कितनी सस्टेनेबल है, और दूसरा इसका जो आपको संकेत मिल रहे होंगे इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, कंपनियां जो है नया इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए कुछ उद्यत दिखती हैं या नहीं. और मैडम से एक पर्टिकुलर सवाल है कि आपने एपेलेट ट्रिब्यूनल जीएसटी का जो अभी फॉर्म कर दिया है, वो जो नाउ इट इज़ रनिंग, तो नए सिस्टम में क्लैरिटी कितनी है, डिस्प्यूट कितने आ रहे हैं, जरा इस पे भी इंसाइट अगर कुछ.
धन्यवाद. मनोहर जी एक सवाल अगर पूछेंगे तो अच्छा होगा. 9 नंबर और 262. इसके बाद हम उधर से आएंगे.
ऋषभ मैम
प्लीज वेलकम. वेट. हाँ 9 चलिए.
ऋषभ भटनागर विद एनडीटीवी प्रॉफिट. Rishabh Bhatnagar with NDTV Profit, ma'am. Firstly, the reason for higher than expected price cuts in certain categories, you said. What could that rationale be? And secondly, till when, what sort of complaints have come in with regards to GST reform implementation, number and resolutions? And also, till when is this monitoring expected to go on?
You may have to repeat all your 3 questions.
Oh,
you just seem to be stringing too many things together.
Sorry. So the first one, the rationale on the higher than expected price cuts that have been passed on in certain products. And secondly, the monitoring of these GST reforms, these prices, till when is this expected? And the sort of complaints, any figures on complaints that have been coming in against retailers that have not passed this on.
Just your name, please, and which group are you representing?
Rishabh Bhatnagar with NDTV Profit.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sirs. Harsh Kumar from Business Standard. 2 questions. Ma'am, Consumer Affairs said that it has received around 4,000 complaints regarding this GST rate thing. So any action has been taken on those? Second is related to this tariff thing. A couple of MSMEs exporters are expecting some credit guarantees. So anything on the line in the future? Thank you.
Yes, we'll take answer. We will have answers.
I think with this answer, I'll be able to cover a few of you all who sort of had similar questions. So I hope you don't take it amiss if I say I've answered that already. I'm answering it now. About this pent-up demand, revenge purchases, festival season, tax reduction has not happened only for this season. Tax reduction is now onwards. So pent-up demands can happen. I remember very similar questions being asked post-COVID. People said, oh yes, pent-up demand, after that nobody will buy, after that will be as bad as COVID time. No, please. It is important for us to understand these tax reductions are required from the point of view of making the system a lot more nimble. Better collections means you have greater room, fiscal room to give back something. So now that the collections are improved and steadily we are touching almost close to 2 lakh crore gross collection per month, there is a reason for us to cut the rate also and give the benefit, pass on the benefit to the consumers. And all these items are mostly day-to-day items. Yes, you won't buy your car every year. But the fact remains, for that person who goes and buys it, it may be a lifetime's purchase. He gets a better rate. So this thing about the pent-up and purchases not happening was, once people got to know sometime late August that a GST with a proposal of considerable reduction in taxes is happening, they thought, yes, it's going to be a good reduction, because PM also said it will be a good Deepavali gift. So people waited. It's a pent-up of 1 month, if anything. So let's not conflate things much beyond their actual. People waited once they got an inkling that there will be a reduction, and that was the pent-up which opened up on 22nd September. So beyond a point, if we build up on these pent-up demand, revenge, will it sustain, we'll not be on sound grounds. All of us should have a good understanding of what this is like and how it plays out. So will it sustain even afterwards, times now? Yes, as I said, it is something which is going to benefit every consumer on a day-to-day basis, and even on those rare once in a couple of years purchase, AC or a higher, better digital television and so on. So it will sustain. The consumption story will continue. Then you had this, will the consumption boost climate continue? This answers, all this which I've said now will answer that. And on Manoj, I think from Reuters, asking question on US tariff and the inverted duty structure. Inverted duty structure aspect, I've answered it. We have corrected most of the inverted duty structure. In fact, if I have to speak about the next GST reforms, I said 3 things. One was the rate reduction accompanied by slab reduction. Second was looking at process simplification. Third was looking at classification anomalies which had to be gotten corrected. What I did not say, but which is also part of what we've done, is making sure inverted duty structures are all removed maximum. There can still be 1 or 2 items on which inversion is happening. That inversion is happening because we still have a lot more issues to iron out. We'll do that in the process. Inversion has been largely corrected, so that won't be. But on Manoj's this particular question related to US tariff, I'll reserve it for Piyush Goyal ji to talk about. Univarta, I don't know how to respond. A virtuous cycle beginning with the tax reduction, leading to better consumption and greater demand, moves further for greater capacity increase by people who sell commodities. From there it increases investment. It is a part of the virtuous cycle. So if you were to forget 1, 2, 3 stages and say straight to the investment and tell us that are you doing this for increasing investment? Increasing investment inevitably will happen. But my first move is not for that. My first move is to make sure the benefit of a better collection reaches the common citizen. On the GST dispute redressal and tribunal, somebody did mention, I want to make sure that the dispute resolution mechanism is now all in place. The GST tribunal is working. They've been given the necessary office space, necessary manpower, and also the equipments which they will need. Everything is in place all over the country. And the tribunals have been established in every state in accordance with the state's requirement as to where they want it. If it is one state which wants 2 places, if it is 1 place, and the other places per their choice. Every place is per the state's choice. So that should actually take off and do very well, the dispute redressal. I was quite curious on this question by Rishabh Bhatnagar, NDTV, profit. What is the rationale for higher than given tax rate being passed by companies? Now, first of all, I did give you stages by stages. If something was at 12 and it came down to 5, and if there are issues of input cost going up, and as a result of the input cost being higher, there would be some kind of a reduction in the actual tax that is being passed on because their output is being taxed far lesser. There will be a weighted average based on which we expect people to benefit and that benefit to be transferred. Sometimes there are manufacturers who think that beyond the weighted average they can go. They have not gone beyond what I have given. 12 to 5, they have not gone to 2. They are not saying, okay, I will only take 2% of tax. But within that realm of reaching 5, weighted average is what I am saying. They could have given this much because of tax at the input stage being different from tax at the output stage. But they've gone beyond the weighted average. So that's where they're passing on more than what you expect them to give because of the differential between the input tax and the output tax. So nowhere have they gone beyond what we have reduced. It'll be a utopian world, I would think, if that happens. But that is the answer for your first one, rationale for higher than. And the monitoring of complaints, what is the level of complaints received? I'd like to say this for also somebody who asked about questions on consumer affairs, receiving complaints, how many have been attended to, and so on. See, the total number of cases which the consumer affairs have received, or complaints or grievances that they've received, is 3,169 grievances which have been received by the Department of Consumer Affairs. And 3,075 grievance of this 3,169, from that 3,075 grievances have been forwarded to nodal officer in the CBIC. Because about 94 of them, the grievances have been resolved at the Consumer Affairs Ministry's level itself. So 3,169 total grievances received, 94 sorted out by Department of Consumer Affairs themselves, 3,075 grievances have been forwarded to the nodal officer of CBIC, who has started handling it, and that is why if you go to the website you will find in process. The grievance is in process. We are handling them. So I want to also assure that majority at a first go, the preliminary first cut understanding of these grievances that we have is majority of the cases pertain to complainants have perceived the GST taxation cut to be like this, whereas it is something else, and they think, oh my, that is the number. Like this weighted average aspect, they probably didn't know. So as a result, they have come up with complaints. The Department of Consumer Affairs has been requested to enable a functionality in their portal itself, which will allow the nodal office and on the portal, so that the nodal officer will be able to forward such complaints to the respective chief commissioners for the necessary examination and resolution. Because a complaint coming to Department of Consumer Affairs may be true, but probably true of that one particular zone and not of everybody else. So we are asking them to give a functionality in the Consumer Affairs portal in which they will give us that information so that we can immediately pass it on to the principal commissioner who needs to handle that. So complaints are being handled, and this is how it goes, and that's for NDTV profit. The rest will go to Minister Piyush Goyal.
Thank you, Nirmala ji. Just one data point that seems to have omitted your attention. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked that question about pent-up demand. In September 2025, the GST collection went up, gross GST collection went up by 9.1% compared to September 24. Now, we are all aware that the GST collection of September is for purchases and sales done in August, which goes to show that even in August 25, after the Honorable Prime Minister announced that from Diwali you will have lower GST on almost every item, despite that our August trade in goods and services was 9.1% higher than the last year, which is reflected in the GST collection of September 2025. All the business journalists will of course catch this on very quickly. And this demonstrates that India is resilient, India has clarity in its vision, and India continues to purchase goods and enjoy the fruits of services even after the announcement on 15th August. The growth trend continued in the rest of the August month. Another data point that will interest you is the outward foreign portfolio investor amount, FPI. In August, the outward FPI was about $4 billion. As soon as the GST announcement came in, people quickly, investors are sharp, they can see the future. They quickly realized that this is a bonanza, and Indian business, Indian industry, Indian growth story, Indian demand of goods and services is surely going to see a massive upswing. And therefore, in the month of September, the outward FPI fell straight away from 4 billion to less than 900 million. This clearly shows that the world also, and investors from across the world, could quickly see that this is a huge upswing in India's growth story. And for that matter, our domestic investors have full trust in Narendra Modi. Because whatever the foreign investors even took out earlier, our domestic investors quickly bought and plugged it in. Despite all the uncertainties the world is facing since the last almost 7-8 months, for those who observe the stock market, it has remained flat, range bound between 25,650 and 24,650. Neither has it gone down below that, and it's been range bound. It clearly shows the resilience that India has. We are the oasis in the world's growth story, and investors who can clearly see that this is a government in action, this is a government that means business, and this is a government that believes that good economics and good politics both can work hand in hand. And the GST reduction is clearly a signal that good politics will, as Manya Vittamantri ji just said, will result in benefit to the consumers and will ultimately lead to the growth story in investments and industry also. Just for the question on US tariffs, the first 6 months exports, despite all these uncertainties, has grown by about 6% or 7% overall. And even in merchandise, we have seen a growth story of India in the first 6 months. There is resilience, there is confidence, there is demand for our goods and services across the world, and India will continue on this growth trajectory. And we are confident we will end financial year 25-26 with a positive growth in India's exports.
राइट साइड से लेंगे 127.
Good afternoon, everyone.
माइक देखिए.
Special thanks to Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Ma'am, just a reiteration of what has been asked.
अपना परिचय भी दे दीजिए, सब लोग जानते हैं.
Sapna Das here from CNBC TV 18. I'm sorry. So some consumption numbers have been shared by Vaishnav sir. 10% increase is what we're expecting this year. So that on a real GDP basis around 202 lakh crores is what you were indicating. That's nominal, okay. So that would be around more than 20,000 crores is what we're expecting in terms of a consumption boost, roughly. Ma'am, also one more question, and I'll just ask you, it's up to you to answer. Not much has been clarified in terms of how this CIM goods, particularly tobacco, is going to be treated. So could you share some thoughts on that? And one more subset, we have a back-to-back loans, but you know, with everything being so good on the fiscal front, when do we expect that to sunset, ma'am? Thank you very much.
232.
मैम आलोक प्रियदर्शी CNBC आवाज से हूँ. मैम आपने बताया कि 54 आइटम्स की निगरानी की जा रही थी.
माइक ऊपर कर लो.
निगरानी की जा रही थी, 54 आइटम्स की निगरानी की जा रही थी. उसमें क्या हेल्थ एंड लाइफ इंश्योरेंस भी शामिल था? अगर शामिल था तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा डिटेल्स बताइए, किस तरह से उससे लोगों को फायदा मिला है. और एक सवाल पीयूष सर से है सर कि जो MSME एक्सपोर्टर्स जो अभी टर्बुलेंट माहौल चल रहा है, उसमें जो पैकेज या राहत की उम्मीद कर रहे थे एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन से, जो मैम ने अनाउंस किया था बजट में, उसका क्या स्टेटस है?
145.
I'm Pallavi from CNN News 18. I want to ask a question to the FM. You gave a list of those 54 items where the benefits have passed on to the consumers. Do we have any kind of a figure about, has there been a substantial increase in the sales of those items? And two, do you see a shift in the consumption pattern of the people because of the benefits accruing to the consumers of GST 2.0?
इसी फ्लैंक में 247 पीछे. राइट फ्लैंक, हाँ, यस.
मैडम, मैं संजीव त्रिवेदी हूँ न्यूज़ 24 से, और ये आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि जीएसटी बजट उत्सव का हम सब यहाँ, मैं भी खुद लाभार्थी हैं, लेकिन आपके जो विपक्ष के मित्र हैं वो हमें ये बताते हैं कि दरअसल ये कोर्स करेक्शन है जिसे सेलिब्रेशन के तौर पर प्रेजेंट किया जा रहा है, और एक अकाउंटेबिलिटी की मांग हो रही है, और वो अकाउंटेबिलिटी जिसके तहत मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट्स, एग्रीकल्चरल इक्विपमेंट्स, इस तरह की चीज़ों पर जो आज 8 वर्षों में ज़्यादा जीएसटी लगाया गया, उसका उत्तरदायी कौन है, ये वो पूछते हैं. और MSME में जो इस वक्त स्थिति है, क्या वो जॉब्स पर प्रभावित रही हुई है, ये तमाम ऐसे सवाल हैं. क्या इस पर आप रिएक्ट करना चाहेंगे?
145 पीछे, उधर अब कोई नहीं है. 145, 184.
अनीता चौधरी, स्वदेश अखबार से हूँ. स्वदेश से अनीता चौधरी. हाँ जी, मेरा सवाल है कि ये 54 को आप लोग मॉनिटर कर रहे थे, आने वाले समय में और कौन कौन से जो डे टू डे हमारे जो प्रोडक्ट्स हैं उसमें और कौन कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स इंक्लूड हो सकते हैं इस बेनिफिशियरी लिस्ट में? और दूसरा सवाल अश्विनी सर से है कि सर जो US एक्सपोर्ट हो रहा है स्मार्टफोन, उसमें कुछ लिस्ट ऐसे बता सकते हैं नाम जिनके डिमांड्स बढ़ रहे हैं?
237.
मैडम, मैं अनिरुद्ध शर्मा हूँ दैनिक भास्कर से. मैं एक लेमैन के तौर पर जितनी भी बातें हुई उसमें ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे ये इस वक्त एक ऐतिहासिक बचत और ऐतिहासिक खरीदारी हुई भारतीयों की तरफ से, और दीपावली आमतौर पर ज़्यादा खरीदारी का वर्ष रहता ही है, पीक टाइम। तो अगर कोई कंपेयर करके कोई कंपाइल्ड फिगर बता सकें कि इस बार कितना हुआ और कोई पिछले से कंपेयर करके, ताकि हम ये जान सकें कि इसका एक्चुअल में कितना लाभ हुआ।
188.
Ma'am, this is Aman Sharma from CNN News 18. This historic consumption that we are speaking about, do you think this consumption will blunt the whatever little impact the 50% US tariffs would have had? And going forward, also I would like to ask you then, because the people are getting these benefits, you're saying on the ground, there are important elections coming up, especially Bihar, and the Prime Minister and the Home Minister have been speaking about it in their election rallies, the GST cuts. Do you see a positive impact for the BJP also in these elections, especially the upcoming Bihar elections, because of these GST cuts?
The back-to-back loan, Sapna Das, as to when it will get over, we've already given a picture to the council. And we'll go by that. And if there is any earlier date, if at all, we'll let know the council first. Because it's important for us to keep the sanctity of the council and its decision. We've informed the GST council that we will be taking it up till 31st December. If there is any earlier occasion for us to clear that, we'll inform the council about it. You also asked about the tobacco, but if there's anything, I will have to come back to you. At the moment, where it stands is where it stands. There's nothing more that I can say. No, Alok, I'm not monitoring insurance. In the 54, which comes from 21 different zones in the ground, field formations are all sending us. उसमें insurance नहीं है, monitor नहीं कर रहे हैं. Was it Pallavi? You asked about sales happening all right. There's a lot of. Will there be a shift in the consumption pattern? That's what you've said. Patterns emerge. Right. I may have sales figures, but even then it will be, for me, too early to establish any pattern. Pattern emerges out of a certain term, a medium term, a reasonably short term which is verging on the medium term, or a longer term when I can establish that there is a clear shift. Like for instance, I'll just inform this, but not exactly comparable. Today the consumer price index, the basket consists of so many items which were relevant 30 years ago, 40 years ago. The basket has not been changed. The consumption basket and the items which go to make the basket has not been changed. It's only now that we're trying to change, and actually the change is happening. Like for instance, whoever thought that an ordinary phone, mobile phone, is also now an essential in every person's hand. It need not be a smartphone, but a phone in his hand. Even that should go into the basket. So like that, if the consumption basket itself took some time, I would think a long time, unduly long time. The pattern on the consumption shift because of the reduction in GST will take a bit of a time for us to come back to answering. Then you had News 24's Trivedi asking a question on the opposition. Now if I start on that, I will probably go on a tirade, but I don't want to take away the importance of this GST related press conference. Is it a course correction? We set the course in GST. We were the ones to bring it. They didn't bring any GST. They couldn't even attempt it. And if the implication or if the suggestion is that we brought it wrongly and therefore we are doing a course correction, I'm sorry. We brought it at the level of 15% revenue neutral rates on an average. Gradually the rates have been coming down. It came down to 14%, then it went to 11%. So the correction, if what they look at as correction, is actually rate reduction for the sake of people getting benefit, because once the collection improves, the tax net widens, you're able to give the benefit back. That is no course correction. It is actually being the result of a government in the center and the GST Council understanding that you're now all right to give some more benefit to the tax payer, the consumer. I honestly want to suggest that whoever speaks on behalf of Congress party, because this I see largely from the Congress ecosystem, whoever speaks on GST from the Congress should have some former finance ministers sit and educate them before they comment. There is no course correction for any government to reduce tax. Tell me which government, at least in the Congress days, it was at 98%, 91%. They didn't even attempt what they call as course correction. What I think, a reduction in the rate of a tax is for the benefit of the people. That's what Prime Minister Modi is telling us to do. And that is what we've done between 17 and today. Within a matter of 7 years, 8 years, we are coming up with an option to reduce the rate. So this is no course correction. And even if they want to call it course correction, during Congress days, they didn't even attempt a course correction. They kept it at 98%. So they should please get informed, educated, tutored by former finance ministers to tell them what it means for tax to come down. That's first. Second, you said taxability, agricultural equipments, and they're all part of this package which Government of India submitted to the GST Council. Agricultural equipments have come down in their rate. Let me see from among my 54, I have that also. Tractors, agricultural equipments have all come down. I don't see, I have it straight away, but yes, they have come down. I can share the data with you. Third, MSMEs. First thing which benefited the MSMEs in this next generation GST is most of the raw products and their input and their intermediary products which go in the manufacturing of MSME items in the manufacturing sector has come down. And as a result, now they will be spending less money for buying the inputs. So MSMEs, which create jobs, have benefited one end from the raw material side, on the other end by the consumption which is going up, where because the output is being taxed at lesser rate. So from both ends, MSMEs have derived benefit. That was, post that you had Anita Chaudhary asking if we will be monitoring that much or more. We will monitor that much and more if necessary. So we are flexible about monitoring. We will keep doing that. And Dainik Bhaskar saying, Deepavali is bar versus पिछले बार. इस बार ही हुआ न्यू जनरेशन जी. अगले साल तक वेट करिए. So मैं कंपेयर कर सकती हूँ उस दीपावली और इस दीपावली का. अरे लास्ट ईयर जीएसटी टैक्स नहीं हुआ ना जी. जनरेशन चेंज इज हैपनिंग नाउ. उससे मैं अभी कैसे कंपेयर करूं? कंपेयर करूं तो भी वो रेट अलग है, ये रेट अलग है. सो कंपैरिजन सिर्फ लास्ट ईयर के साथ, वैसे भी हर महीना हम डेटा रिलीज कर रहे हैं, आपको मिल जाएगा. मगर सिर्फ दीपावली कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बोलना इतना फेयर नहीं होगा क्योंकि यू आर नॉट कंपेयरिंग लाइक विद लाइक. हाँ, सॉरी, देयर वाज इलेक्शन का इम्पैक्ट. हु वाज इट? अमन शर्मा जी? सॉरी, यू आर हियर. मतलब इस देश में, that is why Prime Minister Modi had started this whole thing about studying why can't in this country we have one nation, one election. नहीं तो ऐसे हर बार टैक्स रिड्यूस करो, प्रश्न उठे, हाँ उधर इलेक्शन है, that's why you did it. इधर इलेक्शन है, that's why you did it. जनता को राहत नहीं मिलेगा भैया अगर हम ऐसे डरावने वाले बात क्योंकि आने वाले इलेक्शन के लिए कर दिए. नो. This is a much awaited relief which Prime Minister Modi has been telling us to get going with, we will have to do it. We have done it. So it has no implication on an election. However, elections keep coming. However, elections can have any impact on any policy, or policies can have an impact on the elections. Those are collaterals you'll have to live with. 1 minute. Agricultural equipment, I've got the data. I'm telling you the rates. Spark ignition reciprocating or rotary internal combustion piston engine, which is in agriculture, rate was brought down from 28 to 18. Agricultural diesel engine of cylinder capacity exceeding 250 cc for tractor, 18 to 5. Drastic reduction. And pumps for dispensing fuel and lubricants of the type used in agriculture, filling stations or garages and so on, have come down to 28, from 28 to 18. Hydraulic pumps for tractors have come down from 18 to 5. So on I can read. But I think your question was, usse consumption mein kitna farak pada? I don't have the data here. But all these are, furthermore, I can have more to tell you on agricultural equipments. Reduction is drastic change, downwards.
I just want to add, आपने health insurance की किसी ने बात की थी. मैं अभी देख रहा था, आप में से किसी मित्र के न्यूज़पेपर की रिपोर्ट, पॉलिसी बाजार की रिपोर्ट है कि इसका इतना बड़ा प्रभाव हुआ कि टर्म इंश्योरेंस ने 2.5 गुना सर्ज महसूस किया जीरो जीएसटी के बाद, और हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में 2.2 टाइम्स सर्ज एक्सपीरियंस हुआ डिमांड में. फिर स्वाभाविक है आप लोग का अगला प्रश्न कई लोग मित्रों ने पूछा सस्टेनेबल है कि नहीं, तो सर्च के बाद का भी डेटा उन्होंने दिया है. द स्पाइक देयर आफ्टर हैज सस्टेन्ड मोमेंटम with health insurance demand up 1.7x and term insurance up 1.8x. तो दर्शाता है कि ये सस्टेनेबल डिमांड है. कभी भी टैक्सेस कम होते हैं तो हम सभी जानते हैं कि डिमांड में वृद्धि होती है. एक ऑपोजिशन की बात पे थोड़ा जोड़ना चाहूंगा जो निर्मला जी ने कहा कि वो आज इतने लाचार हैं, इतने हताश हैं, एक के बाद एक जनता उनको नकार रही है, उनको चुनाव में हार मिलती है. अब तो झगड़े भी चल रहे हैं, पता नहीं क्या होगा. अश्विनी जी को शायद ज्यादा खबर हो बिहार में उनकी क्या स्थिति है.
अलग अलग लिस्ट बना रहे हैं सबने नॉमिनेशन.
लेकिन ऑपोजिशन दुर्भाग्य से देश हित और जनहित की चिंता नहीं करती है. वो हर एक चीज में राजनीतिकरण में जुटी हुई है और आज भारत की जनता उसको स्वीकार नहीं करती है उस रवैये. इसीलिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के प्रति उनका अटूट विश्वास है और वो विश्वास एक के बाद एक चुनावों में देखने को मिलता है. चाहे जीएसटी रिडक्शन के पहले के आप चुनाव देखो, लगातार महाराष्ट्र की ऐतिहासिक जीत, हरियाणा की ऐतिहासिक जीत के बाद जीत, दिल्ली के जीत के बारे में आप सब ने देखा. जीएसटी के पहले भी, जीएसटी के बाद भी, अब कई वर्षों तक शायद उन्होंने तय कर लिया है कि उनको विपक्ष में ही रहना है.
अब अभी लास्ट सेट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस ले रहे हैं, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम 269. This is last set of question. We'll take.
Ma'am, I am Monica from Business Standard.
Left side.
Ma'am, do you think that it is logical to link GST rate on restaurant services with the declared room tariff?
Loud. No, just keep it closer to your
Hello?
Like that.
Am I audible?
Horizontally.
Ma'am, I am Monica from Business Standard. Ma'am, do you think that it is logical to link the GST rate on restaurant services with the declared room tariff of a hotel, as both are separate services? So industry says that this is leading to a lot of disputes and heavy demands. So lot of hotels, they have received notices for paying 5% GST on restaurant bills. So are you considering revisiting this provision?
Are you considering?
Revisiting this provision.
270.
Also, ma'am, on inverted duty structure, you said that it has majorly been addressed, but a fresh issue of inverted duty has occurred in sectors like FMCG and pharma. And also, ma'am, refund on input services is not allowed under inverted duty. So this is a big issue for the industry. Are you planning to give any relaxation on this?
नेक्स्ट आपसे अनुरोध है एक प्रश्न करें और लोगों को मौका मिल जाए जिससे नेक्स्ट
Meghna Mittal from Money Control. Some of the states have raised concerns on revenue loss due to the GST rate cuts, which they are saying will hamper their capex. What is the kind of estimate on the revenue losses in the next fiscal when the full reduced GST cuts will come into play? And if the states face these revenue loss, is the center open to any kind of compensation to them?
209.
सर मैं शैलेश यादव हूँ ANI से। सर आप लोगों ने एक्सपोर्टर से काफ़ी बातचीत करी थी जब US का टैरिफ लगा था, तो काउंसिल की आप एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन काउंसिल की आपने मीटिंग ली थी दिल्ली बॉम्बे में, FMM ने भी बैठक करी थी। उसके बाद एक्सपोर्टर्स को उम्मीद थी कोई राहत का पैकेज आएगा उस पर, तो क्या उम्मीद हम कर सके कि उनके लिए सरकार को सोच रही है?
236 16 okay 16 then 236.
Ma'am, Prakash Pedashi from ET now. The council has approved the provisional refund system to help industry. When can we expect this provision to be implemented?
236.
Premanshu from Anandabazar Putrika. Ma'am, do you expect that this higher collection because of increase in sales will compensate the revenue loss because the states are still expressing the concern about this?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you expect that this revenue loss will be compensated by the increase in sales because the states are still expressing the concern about revenue loss? And is there any plan to monitor the insurance sector?
Yes. 46.
I'm Abhimanyu Sharma from CNBC TV 18. Has the rise in consumption demand triggered a rush of investors or many foreign companies which are queuing up to invest in India due to this?
271.
Sir, I'm Prashant from Financial Express. Usually during the festival season, discounts are offered by the sellers. So is there any assessment how much can be attributed to the GST cuts in the sales volume that we have seen?
277.
Hi, Ojasvi from Financial Express. My question is for both Nirmala Madam and Vaishnav Sir. Ma'am, could you give me some insight over the existing... Hi, here. Yeah. Can you give me some insight over the existing inventory that's already there? Because with products like dairy and FMCG, it's still much more easier. But then when it comes to products like electronics, I mean, the supply chain and the inventory is going to be for a long time. So how do we plan to go?
So what is that question?
If you can give me an insight on the existing inventory that was there before the tax slabs.
249.
हेलो, नीरज हूँ न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से। मेरा सवाल पीयूष गोयल सर से और उसके बाद निर्मला मैम से। पीयूष सर, अमेरिकी टैरिफ के बाद लगातार भारत और अमेरिका के बीच वार्ताएं चल रही है, कब तक गुड न्यूज़ की उम्मीद है? और निर्मला मैम से हमारा सवाल है कि जो इम्पैक्ट हुआ है यूएस टैरिफ का भारत के अलग अलग सेक्टर पे, उस इम्पैक्ट को कैसे मॉनिटर किया जा रहा है?
दो पूछ लीजिए। 136, 194, 131, ओके। 194 त्वेश, चलिए। अच्छा
मैम, मेरा नाम हिमांशु शेखर है, मैं एनडीटीवी इंडिया से हूँ। एक छोटा सवाल था होटल इंडस्ट्री के लिए। आपने 7500 रुपीस तक के जो रूम टैरिफ थे उस पर जीएसटी घटाया था, तो आप जो मॉनिटरिंग कर रहे हैं उसका होटल इंडस्ट्री से किस तरह का इनपुट आपके पास आया है? और पीयूष गोयल सर से एक छोटा सवाल था कि जिसको एक मेरे साथी ने जो सवाल पूछा है, भारतीय टीम अमेरिका में है, तो अभी तक कितनी प्रगति हुई है और जो फॉल तक जो एक टारगेट है, हाउ होपफुल यू आर ऑफ मीटिंग दैट टारगेट?
194.
मैम आई एम त्वेश मिश्रा फ्रॉम इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स। जो लोग जीएसटी की चोरी कर रहे हैं उनके खिलाफ क्या कार्रवाई करी जाएगी और क्या जो कंप्लेंट कर रहा है उसको पैसे वापस मिलेंगे या सरकार जो जीएसटी चोरी कर रहा है उसके खिलाफ कोई कार्रवाई करेगा?
131 and 139 finally finished. 131.
Hi, ma'am.
Pass it.
Shrimi Chaudhary here from NDTV Profit. Quick question that the GST collection have consistently stayed above 1.8 lakh crore mark. However, the full impact of the cut will be seen from October onwards. So how do you see the momentum playing out in the remaining months? And a quick follow-up also that with GST tribunal up and will be soon running, is there any consideration on the faceless GST regime?
Last, yes.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम पूनम है और मेरा प्रश्न अश्विनी वैष्णव सर से है। सर, आपने बताया कि जो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और इलेक्ट्रिक गुड्स की जिस तरीके से प्रोडक्शन बढ़ रहा है, डिमांड बढ़ी और खूब लोगों ने खरीदा भी, तो आपने रोजगार की बात की और बताया कि इसमें करीब 25% का इजाफा हुआ है। तो अगर 25% का इजाफा केवल क्या इसी तिमाही का है या ये पूरा है? और दूसरा एक चीज और, सेमीकंडक्टर की जो दूसरी यूनिट शुरू हुई है, इसको हम कब तक साकार रूप में देख पाएंगे?
या हो गया सर?
I'll take the smaller questions first. सेमीकंडक्टर का सेकंड यूनिट का जो आपने पूछा कब तक साकार होगा, साकार हो गया पिछले हफ्ते। ऑलरेडी प्रोडक्शन वहाँ पे स्टार्ट हो गया केएनस के प्लांट में। सेकंड आपने पूछा 25% इंक्रीज जो डिमांड में आई है, ये आपका प्रश्न था कि इसका रोजगार के साथ लिंक। रोजगार टोटल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में 25 लाख पहुंच गया है, 2.5 मिलियन। 25 लाख पहुंच गया है, 2.5 मिलियन। साथ ही साथ अब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में करीब 1,15,000 करोड़ रुपए का इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए एप्लीकेशंस आई हैं। तो उससे भी रोजगार बहुत बड़ी मात्रा में जनरेट होगा। एस्टिमेट है करीब करीब 90,000 डायरेक्ट रोजगार इससे जनरेट होगा, 90,000 डायरेक्ट रोजगार इससे जनरेट होगा। एक प्रश्न बीच में आया था कि किस तरह के मोबाइल फोन्स की डिमांड यूएस के लिए बढ़ रही है। यूएस के लिए जो डिमांड बढ़ रही है वो मोस्टली हाई एंड मोबाइल फोन्स की डिमांड बढ़ रही है। यही थे क्वेश्चंस। मैम यू कैन टेक द रिमेनिंग।
So in this round, the questions which have been asked of me, I'll try to answer some of them. On the what will be the revenue loss, have you made an assessment, how are you going to make up for any loss, literally. I think immediately after the GST Council, we had openly come out with what was our estimate. And we didn't treat the question as revenue loss, it was revenue impact. Because if you cut tax, the tendency would be people will come out more to buy. So that so-called cut, and as a result of which you would have, what you would have earned, you may not earn, will be more than offset by the consumption. So that is not to be treated as revenue loss, but as a revenue impact which will get compensated by further purchases. So every question that has been asked in the name of revenue loss, how are you going to make up? I think that answer was given on that day. We stick to the numbers given on that day. We will wait. Deepavali is not yet over. We have 3 more days to go. And the festival season in India continues till literally Shankaranti, which is middle of January. So I think we should wait for us to get the consumption figures. As a result, the increase in revenue figures, and post which we'll be able to talk about any revenue impact, whichever way as you may want. So for all those who have asked me that question, that would be the broad answer. Equally, I find a few of us already voicing that states are talking about it. The same answer holds good. cut in revenue tax would mean a greater purchasing capacity, revenue increase, which will offset what would have been otherwise collected with a higher rate of tax. But the fact is, the question is not so much on revenue loss. The question, I can see some of them specifically asking, what happens to revenue loss and how will the state's concern be addressed? How will you make up? I think I've answered this question. In the GST Council, center and states are equal partners. All of us are sitting there together. Any revenue loss, the way in which it has been put, is a loss for the center also. Any reduction in the earnings is a reduction in the earnings of the center also. I'd concentrate more to see how I can make up for that by cutting down on evasion or by plugging loopholes. So the center is not sitting with an additional bag of resources to be able to fund states if they don't doing well. All of us are equally in it. And this has been said in the GST Council itself. I would like to reiterate that point. I am not sitting with a separate bag of money. In the GST Council, all of us are sitting together with a bag in the center. All of us collect and we put it into it and all of us take out of it. If it comes down, all of us will have to be more efficient in collection. All of us will have to plug the loopholes. So I'm sorry, this I said even that night. I repeat, GST revenues going up is good for center and states. GST revenues plateauing will have to give us an alarm bell so that we work better and collect better. There is no my-baap relationship here. Let's understand that. Prashant Shahu, discounts are offered every year during festival time. I think you're very good in well-researched reports. I read yours very eagerly. You may want to look at the offers made last Deepavali. One such a question was asked from here. And offers offered this Deepavali. Are the discounts as much or more? So tax reduction as an incentive going to the consumer, plus more being added by the company, maybe so. But if you're implying that what has been given there as discounts are being given as discounts and not as concession from the tax, I don't think you're right. I've shown you in the name of 54 items. There can be more items which we can share with you later. So that's, I suppose, not the right. There were questions about hospitality and leisure. The GST reduction for hospitality and leisure is from 12 to 5% without ITC. For room tariffs at 7,500 or below. Hotel Association of India estimates tax relief for travelers to the extent of 7% on the rooms. Even on transport buses, reduction of GST from 28 to 18% will serve as a boost for tourism. In fact, one of the hoteliers remarked, and I quote here, with the festival and wedding season driving peak demand, the reduced GST has already started fueling positive sentiment and momentum in bookings. We expect this to accelerate, particularly in the mid-market segment, where affordability drives travel decisions. There were questions on provisional sanction of refunds arising out of inverted duty structure. The 90% automated refund, without asking a question, has been effected from 1st October 2025. We are already on 15th, 16th, 17th of October. From 1st October, it's already commenced this 90% automated refund. And for the rest, 10%, there will obviously be some kind of a verification, checking up, and then it'll go back. So that's already implemented. Provisional, I think it was ET now who asked that question. provisional refund question? Yes, I think I've addressed most of the things which were asked of me. Existing. I have no clue on the existing inventory. I'm sorry. Ojaswini? One minute, I'm coming. I've not finished my. Tariff impact will go for Minister Piyush Ji. But are we monitoring tariff impact? Sectors which are affected by the tariff, whether it is textiles or whether it is marine products, are talking to us as federations, groups and so on, but they have not given us yet, at least not me, yet any amount which is their assessment of what the tariff has done to them. So I'll wait for them to add more on it. GST चोरी कार्यवाही वो तो चलता रहता है भाई. चोरी करे तो हम पकड़ लेंगे, चोरी करे तो हम सजा तक आपको लेके जाएंगे, और सजा जिनको मिलना है उनको मिलेगा, चाहे जो भी आवाज सड़क से उतरकर वो करें तो भी हम करेंगे. ग्रुप हो गए, हाउ विल यू टच अस? नहीं भाई, सरकार को जो पैसा आना है आना ही है, हम उसको फॉलो करेंगे. And Srimi, GST collection coming down because of rate cut. I think I've repeatedly answered it. I expect the volumes going up because of rate cut, making up for what is the tax impact. And finally, faceless GST. Yes, it is a goal which we like to reach. Lots of demand has come to me from various zones. Can faceless be introduced even in GST? We love to do that. Piyush ji may want to add.
Last point था वो US tariffs कब तक good news आएगी? मुझे लगता है कि बड़े सौहार्दपूर्ण वातावरण में बातचीत चल रही है, और मैंने पहले कई बार कहा है कि कभी कोई डेडलाइन के आधार पर फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट या ट्रेड नेगोशिएशंस नहीं होती है. भारत के किसानों का, भारत के मछुआरों का, भारत के एमएसएमई सेक्टर का, जब तक देश हितों को पूरी तरीके से हम संभाले नहीं, तब तक कोई एग्रीमेंट किया नहीं जाता. बहुत अच्छी तरीके से बातचीत चल रही है, बातचीत जारी है, और जब निर्णय पे आएंगे तब आपको जरूर अवश्य सूचना दे देंगे. धन्यवाद.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. आप लोगों के लिए भोजन की व्यवस्था ग्राउंड फ्लोर के एट्रियम पे है, वहाँ हम लोग आपके साथ रहेंगे. आइए प्लीज.